Welcome to today's lesson on understanding percentiles and how they are used to monitor the growth of organisms. In our lesson today, we will first introduce the concept of percentiles and explain their significance in monitoring growth. We will then learn how to read and interpret percentile charts. We will apply this understanding to real-world examples involving the growth of organisms. So far, you have covered the basics of cell differentiation and growth. You've learned how cells transform into specialized types to perform specific functions, and how cell differentiation and division enables organisms to grow in size and complexity. This foundational knowledge allows us to introduce the concept of percentiles as a tool to measure and monitor growth in a more precise and standardized way. By understanding percentiles, we can better assess the development of organisms, compare growth rates, and identify any deviations from expected patterns. Understanding how to interpret percentiles enhances our biological understanding by providing a clear framework for analyzing growth data, which is vital for fields such as medicine, agriculture, and conservation biology. Let's get started. To monitor the growth of organisms, scientists often use percentiles. Let's break down what percentiles are and how they help us to track growth. Percentiles are a statistical measure that indicate the relative standing of an individual within a given group. Essentially, percentiles tell us where an individual fits compared to others. More precisely, the percentile is the percentage of individuals within a group that are lower than the organism of interest in the relevant category. By dividing a dataset into 100 equal parts, each percentile represents a value below which a given percentage of observations fall. For example, if a baby is in the 60th percentile for weight, that means the baby is heavier than 60% of other babies. If you know the percentile rank of an organism, you can infer how it compares to others. For instance, being in the 90th percentile means that the organism is higher than 90% of its peers in whichever category is under investigation, be it height, weight, or something else. However, being in the 10th percentile would mean that the organism is only greater than 10% of its peers. Using this logic, if a baby is in the 25th percentile for mass, it means the baby is heavier than 25% of other babies, but lighter than 75% of other babies. This places the baby on the lighter side of the growth chart. Percentiles help in assessing whether an organism is growing as expected. Growth charts are often used to visualize this data. Let's look at a typical growth chart now. The horizontal axis usually represents the weight, height, or another measurement. The vertical axis represents frequency. Sections of the chart show the percentages of the population. An individual's position on the chart can be used to determine what percentile they are in. For example, if a baby is on this vertical line on the chart and the horizontal axis is weight, the baby is heavier than 10% of other babies and lighter than 90%. Therefore, this baby would be in the 10th percentile. Knowing an organism's percentile can also give insights into its health. A very high percentile can sometimes indicate health issues such as obesity, and a very low percentile could indicate undernutrition or a health problem causing poor growth. It's important to note that being in a high or low percentile does not necessarily mean good or bad health. This is because percentiles simply provide insights into how an individual compares to the overall population distribution. Health professionals, such as pediatricians, use percentiles to monitor growth and developmental milestones in children. By tracking these measurements over time, they can identify any irregularities early on and take any necessary action. Percentiles are a powerful tool to understand and monitor growth patterns in organisms. They allow us to compare an individual's growth to that of a larger group. This helps us to spot potential health issues early. Understanding how to read and interpret these statistics is crucial for anyone involved in the care and study of living organisms. Let's go through some specific questions to understand how to apply the concept of percentiles when we are monitoring growth. Let's first say that a baby is at the 80th percentile for weight, according to the provided chart. What does this signify about the baby's weight compared to the other babies? Being at the 80th percentile means that this baby's weight is greater than or equal to 80% of the other babies that are in this sample. This signifies that only 20% of babies weigh more than this individual baby. Let's look at another example. You have data on two babies. Baby A is at the 10th percentile, and baby B is at the 75th percentile when we are looking at length. What do these data suggest about the growth of the two babies? Being at the 10th percentile means that baby A is longer than only 10% of babies, and shorter than 90% of babies. This indicates that baby A has slower growth. Being at the 75th percentile indicates that baby B is longer than 75% of babies and shorter than 25% of babies. This indicates that baby B has a faster growth rate. Let's look at one more example. A child's weight falls from the 75th percentile at birth to the 25th percentile over 6 months. What might this indicate? And what action should be taken? A drop from the 75th to the 25th percentile suggests that the child's weight gain has slowed compared to their peers. This could indicate an underlying health issue or nutritional problem that might need addressing. By working through these examples, we can see how percentiles help us compare an individual's growth to a larger population, identify potential growth issues, and take appropriate actions when necessary. In today's lesson, we covered the concept of percentiles and how they are used to monitor the growth of organisms, specifically within the context of cell differentiation and growth in cell biology. We started by explaining that percentiles are statistical measures that indicate the relative position of an individual organism within a defined population. We then discussed how percentiles are crucial in tracking developmental milestones and growth patterns, providing an effective way to compare individual growth to a broader population. For example, in human growth charts, a child's height or weight at a specific age can be evaluated by finding which percentile they fall into. This offers insights into whether the child's growth is typical or requires further monitoring. Finally, we touched on the practical importance of understanding and using percentiles, particularly in realms like healthcare, where percentiles assist in making informed decisions about growth trends and potential health interventions. By grasping these concepts, you will have a better understanding of how growth can be monitored and compared. This paves the way for more advanced studies in cell differentiation and growth.
Watch the rest of the GCSE biology course at Sophos Education.